Hi everyone, today we are going to go through 3 fun ways to practice your scales. Remember, scales are a really important thing to be doing every day. They give you a chance to practice having perfect posture, a beautiful bow hold, and making sure that your intonation or how in tune you are is perfect and right on the money. You want to make sure that your fingers are exactly in the right spot to be playing the notes correctly. And normally in class, we might just play our scales with nice long bows, which is a good thing to do. But these 3 ways make it a little bit more fun and actually give you a little bit of a challenge too. The nice thing about practicing scales in this way is that it works with any scale for any level. So if you're a beginner and you only know those 3 scales that we worked on in lessons, you can use those. And if you are a middle schooler or even a high schooler and you're working on some more advanced scales, you can use these methods with that as well. So the first fun way to practice your scales is doing what we like to call a silly scale, which means putting a fun rhythm to each note. And so a lot of this might be a fun way to involve your family in your practicing. You could pick a topic, so you might pick fruit as your topic, and you can ask one family member to name a fruit and another to name another one. So maybe the first person might pick a watermelon and the second person could pick apple. So your scale is a watermelon apple scale. And for every note, you're going to go watermelon apple. So just to give you a little bit of a demonstration of what it would sound like. And I'm going to use just D major today to show you a little bit of the scale. It might sound like this. And when we do these, you're going to want to stay right in the middle of your bow. That's going to make it the easiest, and it's going to sound the best if you do that. So that's the first way, a silly scale. The second way is there's a little bit of a pattern to it that I'm going to show you in a minute, but this is a really fun way to play your scales that the middle schoolers worked on this year quite a bit. You start by playing whatever the first note is in your scale once. So in this case, I'm going to play a D. Then you play the first and second note and back to the first note. So in this case, D, E, D. Sounds like this. Then we add the third note, D, E, F sharp, E, D. Add the fourth note up to G. And so on all the way until you get to the top note, in this case a high D. You might have to go through this slowly at first. It takes a little while to get the pattern down, so don't get discouraged if you can't do it perfect yet. But eventually, maybe after a week of practicing this, you should be able to do it a little bit faster. So here's an example. This isn't the fastest you could do it, but here's a moderate speed of going all the way through the whole scale. So it'll sound like this. Once you master it that way, where you're going up and back down, there is an even more challenging version where you start high and go back down and up. I'll just give you a little sample of what that sounds like. So you start on the high D, and then down to C sharp, down to B, down to A. And again, you keep going with that until you get to the open D, to your low D. And again, that works with any scale. What we did in middle school is once we mastered both versions, we actually played them back to back. So you had the going up version and the going down version. And you can work on increasing the speed on that too. That's another way to challenge yourself. So that's the second way to practice your scales. The third way is using slurs. So if you haven't learned about slurs in your lessons yet, that basically means you're putting more than one note into a bow direction. I know we haven't gotten to it in all lesson groups in the 4th grade yet, and some in the 5th grade. So let me demonstrate for you. We might play these 4 notes separate like this. But if you slur them, it's going to look like this. So I moved my bow in the same direction. And so a neat way to practice your scales with slurs is to start by just slurring 2 notes per bow and increase the number as you feel comfortable with increasing it. So I'd start with 2 notes per bow like this. Then you can do 3 notes. Four notes. And eventually, a really neat challenge is to see if you can play the whole scale up and down in just one bow. So that will look and sound like this. And if you get really good at it, you can actually do it more than once. I'll try to do 2 in one bow. And of course, it's important that you don't try to do those faster versions until you have the slower version down first. So with the slurs, the more notes that you put per bow, you might have to move your left hand fingers a little bit faster so that you don't run out of bow. So those are the 3 really fun ways to practice your scales. Remember, we had silly scales, that little pattern where you keep going up and back down, and then the slur challenge. So what I'd like you to do is to practice your scales in all 3 of those ways this week, and then take a video of your favorite scale and send it to me on the Google Classroom so I can check it out and give you some comments.